Knickerbocker fans, it's been a couple days, but today I bring on a professional to discuss what's going on with them Knicks. Let's do it, New York City. Knick fans, I don't enjoy seeing you guys go through what you're going through. It's been 6 years of not making the playoffs, and I don't think it's entertaining to come in on nights that y'all lose and try to clown the team. I don't think that's a productive conversation to be having about another New York City sports team. Now, banter is banter. You're gonna have your jokes, and the Nets have given the Knicks fans plenty of things to joke about over the years. We are the perpetrators of the single worst trade in NBA history, and to which we accredit Mr. Sean Marks a lot of accolades for pulling us out of, kind of, but the job is not done, and I digress. Today, I'm bringing on a gentleman from a show that I first got a chance to look at from the perspective of just being a basketball fan. I wanted to go on there and hear what they had to say and laugh at the Knicks bias. But I found something different. I found a group of cats who put together a format that I think is unique in NBA social media. And I personally think their format is right. So then the second time I was looking at them from the perspective of potentially someone who would participate at the QNYC incubator. And for those who are coming on for the first time, I am not a professional NBA pundit. I'm a software engineer who started a little tech company, and I sold it, and I'm a kid from Brooklyn who did good. I'd like to be able to do that for others, and one of those people I think that I'll be working with in the future is from a gentleman from Knicks Fan TV. Why don't you come on and introduce yourself to the people?
Salute to everybody out there listening. Happy holidays. Salute to Eves, and thanks for having me on. Once again, this is CP from Knicks Fan TV, a show where we just let the fans be heard and let the fans have their opinions on the team. We cover Knicks news. We interview Knicks fans, celebrity fans, former players, and we do post-game live streams after every game where we break down each game. This season seems like each loss. And then we take phone calls from the fans, man. So it's been a budding brand, and we just look forward to the continued growth. So thanks for having me on, man.
Nah, man, kudos to you. And you already know I'm a fan of your format. I think the next stage of sports entertainment is going to look a lot more like what you guys do versus what is done on ESPN. Obviously, that has its audience. There's people who like that, but the way people consume sports are changing, and we don't even know how to measure it right now. But I gotta ask, how did you come up with your format? How did you decide upon the way you execute creating content?
Well, I would say it came from several different inspirations. Number one, I was a WFAN 660 head from the time I could remember. I used to go, remember when they used to have Take Your Kid to Work Day, and I used to go with my dad into work, and he was an electrical engineer, and they used to work right across the street from the Garden at 11 Penn Plaza, sorry.
That's history.
And I used to go in there, and they used to have the radio on, and when you listen to the radio, you just hear these two guys yakking back and forth, arguing about sports. And I used to be like, what is this? And my dad used to be like, yeah, this is Mike and the Mad Dog. We just have it on just to get us through the day. And from those times, I just used to be hooked on that show and just hooked on sports radio format and the passion that it brought out of New Yorkers, no matter the sport or no matter the team. Just all New Yorkers just have that common passion for their teams and speak so eloquently about it at times. So you had that in terms of the sports radio format, and that's how we have our live callers for the shows.
Yeah.
But then also from a YouTube standpoint, I took a liking to the fan channels for the Premier League teams, in particular Arsenal Fan TV. You have United Stand for Manchester United, Full-Time Devils for Manchester United, and just how they would cover their team and really bringing the passion out of their fan base, whether they would do post-game, live interviews with the fans, or they would do match breakdowns, watch-alongs, things of that nature. I was just really enamored with their style, and I just said if there was ever a market to emulate that, it would have to be New York.
Yeah.
And so, as you were saying, the media consumption is a bit different these days, especially with the new generation. This is more the highlight generation. You're seeing fans like Knicks fans, they're just tired of the knocks from the ESPNs, the limited coverage from the ESPNs, even MSG. Yeah, you'll get a 30-minute pregame or 30-minute postgame show, but after that, it's all gone. There's no on-demand content. No one is going to the fans for their opinions on things. Everyone seems to just be pushing out their content, but not really pulling in the fans. And I feel like that's one of the most important elements of the game.
Yeah.
Without the fan support, these sports wouldn't have these multi-million-dollar, TV network deals and so on and so forth. So I just felt it was important to capture the pulse of the fan base after each game, and that's how we've continued to grow.
I'm a fan, so I'm really honored that you would come on and talk to my little audience of hoop fans. But let's move on. Let's talk about the Knicks. I've had a hard time. The intent of the show was to cover both city teams, equally, good and bad. And I wanted to do it with, people that I knew and people who I talk, basketball with. And the challenge has been dudes are heartbroken after these games, and they don't really want to come on your podcast after watching these games. There's such a strong emotional connection to the Knicks that you got to ask how's the fan base out there? Can tell me about where the fan base is at as a group.
Yeah. Well, listen, I would say you're always going to have your pocket of loyal fans like myself that will watch this team every game inside and out, knowing that the prospects of a particular season aren't going to be that great, that you're probably not going to make the playoffs, but you're still watching the team because that's your team. Like, you know nothing else but that. And if you're a basketball fan and you love your team, you're going to stick with it. Then you have your elements of more casual fans who are probably diehards in the 90s who are, disenfranchised with the direction of the team right now. And they'll watch from a bird's eye view, but they're really not going to get back into it until this team really starts to turn the corner. Right. And then, of course, you'll have your elements that are really just bandwagons. They'll follow the hottest teams or the hottest players, but from the Knicks standpoint, they probably won't come back around until maybe playoffs time. From my perspective, from the channel, I thought when the whole free agency thing, when the whole thing really just collapsed, and we didn't get KD, we didn't get Kyrie or any superstars, I really feared how, what the response was going to be to the channel. I was like, damn, I'm about to lose subscribers, I'm about to lose viewers, but it really went the opposite way. We've gotten more viewers and more loyal listeners because people feel like that is their outlet to still vent. The people that are still around, they feel like Knicks Fan TV is their outlet to still vent, win or lose. And so, we've kind of benefited from it.
It's like politics because there's a phenomenon in news media where if Obama's in office, Fox News ratings goes, through the charts because people want to hear on the daily, like how we're going to get Obama out of office. And the same thing, you're seeing MSNBC and CNN, who have to share a political leaning side. They do very well under the Trump era, and it's just because people want to a sounding board or some form of content that appeases their grief. Do you feel responsible to be more upbeat in terms of looking towards the future, or do you feel more that it's your responsibility to tell your fan base a real analysis, even if it's something that they don't want to hear?
No, our whole intention when we started this was just to be our authentic selves. Whether we're entertaining for a live stream or we're just talking in the barbershop. If the team played well on a given night, we're going to give them their kudos. It's not, we don't make anything indicative of the future. We just talk about that game and that particular night and who played well, who didn't play well. If the team hasn't been playing well for a couple of games, we're going to point out the player that hasn't been playing well, or has David Fizdale, the things that he did that we may have questions on. So I think we give credit where it's due, and we criticize or we question where it's due.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the way you need to look at things. So tell me, how did we get here? How did the Knicks end up where they are? Who is to blame for this situation?
Oh, man, there's many hands in the pot. I think this has been 20 years of mismanagement, starting with the trade of Patrick Ewing. I think, sure, you can blame James Dolan to a certain extent. I think once we got past that late 90s team, early 2000s team, that team was really never rebuilt properly. If you look at it, Charlie Ward was the last Knicks rookie to be extended to his second contract. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know, and that was almost 20 years ago.
Right.
Almost 20 years ago. And in between that time, as the team languished, they continued to try to make the box office splash. The Antonio McDyess trade, trading for a guy who hadn't even played many games the season before that due to a devastating knee injury, and you give up a first-round pick, who was Nene at the time, to bring him in. McDyess only plays a handful of games for the Knicks, and that was all she wrote. Yep. They continued to lose, and then they mortgaged the future again for Stephon Marbury. Okay, I was ecstatic when Steph came. I loved it. The prodigal son coming home. He was New York City basketball, and I was excited. I was also a Penny Hardaway fan, and even though Penny didn't have it back then, I was just happy to have him see him in a Knicks uniform. But, again, those moves, when you mortgage in your future and you're hamstringing your salary cap, those things set you back.
Yeah.
When Steph's era passed, okay, you struck out on LeBron, but then you bring Amari in with no insurance on his knees. So you take one max contract and put that together. You jump the gun early and panic and package up your future assets for Melo, where we don't know if he was threatening to go to Brooklyn. This.
Yeah.
And whether we would have waited it out to the end of the season, try to sign him outright. Okay, that was a gamble that I don't necessarily blame Dolan for. But again, it didn't work. Because you had two guys on a max contract, one guy who was completely useless from an injury standpoint, and then you basically had to patch the rest of the team around them, and it just didn't work. And so they kept doing those things, and which would set them back. And so now we're here in present day, finally trying to rebuild the team, but with all the losing that has transpired over the years, it just makes it seem a lot worse.
See, my brother.
You know what I mean? It makes it seem a lot worse.
Let's hold on right there, and we're gonna take a little break. And when we come back, we're gonna talk about how the Knicks are gonna fix this. Hold tight with me.